Welcome back to 340 Paddler, and we are on to week 7. Excuse me. We are on to week 7. So you've been training, things are starting to come together. If you've been at this since January 1st, then you're probably somewhere end of February and spring is upon us. So that brings up a few issues and I want to address them. Of course, we have the goal of getting you to the start and getting you through the race in a healthy and good time. So let's start with cardio. I know you hate cardio at this point. You're sitting there going, why am I running or biking when I could be in the boat? Well, because I live in Wisconsin, where I won't be able to get in the boat until June. Because of hard water problems, so you are stuck doing cardio. But honestly, if you can get in the boat, that's fantastic. We will deal with those things in the next week or two. We'll be dealing with some of that. But let's deal with the cardio. Now, for week 6, you should have done 3 3-mile runs, or 3 40-minute bike sessions, or 3 roughly 30-minute swim sessions. And of course, we're moving through our progression. We're almost to the first foundation or the first base, as I see it, which is doing these 3 4-mile runs. But we have to work up to that. And now you've successfully done 3 3-mile runs. We're going to start adding mileage. And the way we do that is I only want you to add 1 mile per week, which means we'll have 2 3-mile runs and 1 4-mile run. So that's 2 by 3 for the week, not in a day, and 1 by 4. Try to keep the heart rate under about 155. With running, it becomes a serious issue because, again, overtraining and stress injury becomes a serious issue. Bike, I'm looking for about 45 minutes. Not much of a difference there, but I want to start pushing your heart rate up. So start pushing it to 145. We're slowly going to be progressing that up a little bit. And in terms of swim, keep the 30 minutes. I want to keep your shoulders in good shape, but focus on increasing your distance, decreasing any rest time that you have in there. So, of course, you're going to be asking yourself, well, there must be an indoor ergometer option. After all, I'm doing all this running or biking or swimming or whatever you're doing, and there must be a way that I can be better trained so that when I get in the boat, I'm ready to go. And the truth is, there is no one-to-one ergometer. There's no such thing. It's the golden egg. It's an impossible thing. You can't possibly have a one-to-one with the boat. So in other words, if your ergometer says that you're doing 8 miles an hour, it does not mean that the boat will go 8 miles an hour, because the ergometer doesn't have to worry about hull speed and prismatic coefficients and everything else and wetted surface. So that being said, trying to manage your expectations, let's look at some of our indoor options. And I'm going to look at a number of different options at a number of different budget levels. So we're going to start with paddling. The cheapest option would be to get an exercise ball, which I talked about in week 6. You can use the same one here. And then use a broomstick or a length of pipe, roughly the same length as a paddle shaft. And you're simply going to sit there and go through the motion of paddling. This is going to get you used to that motion, get your shoulders and the joints in your shoulders and back used to that motion. It is also going to work on balance. And if you put your feet initially on the floor, and then you would put your feet up on, say, a chair or something that's lower than you, say a child's chair or a box, and then slowly progress to the point where you can put your feet on a soccer ball or something like that. And you're constantly working on that balance issue and technique as well, because if you have bad technique, you'll probably fall off. Next option, moving up a little bit, the Nordic track conversion. Now, Brian Hopkins has plans online that you can find at the 340 forums, or if you ask at the Facebook group, for converting a Nordic track, which live this time of year in thrift shops. They hibernate there before coming out during the summer. And you can pick up a Nordic track, at least in Wisconsin, for $20-25. You can pick one up in Missouri probably for $25, maybe $50 on a bad day. And then it costs $35 for the plan. So worst case scenario, less than $100, and you have an ergometer. It's not necessarily going to have really accurate, cool data and everything else, but it is going to get you into shape. Then we are moving up again, and here we have the Paddle 1. This is something that you can get through Ron Ladd Surf Ski, and I've owned one of these, which is why I'm talking about it. Brilliant little machine. It's fairly compact, easy to use, easy to understand. My one issue with these is I have heard of people actually hurting themselves, hurting their shoulders, just because of the way the motion is if you're going to use it for a long period of time. So with any of these ergometers, I would really ask you to limit yourself to no more than maybe 60 minutes on the ergometer. I know at least two top 340 men's solo finishers who have damaged their shoulders on ergometers because it is such a mechanical motion and such a repeated motion, unlike on the water where no two strokes are exactly alike. So something to keep in mind. But an excellent machine costs, last I looked, around $1,200, $1,500. It kind of depends on the Canadians, of all things, and they aren't that polite with their money. So maybe you can bribe them with some Molsons. And then we have the Kayak Pro Speed Stroke by Kayak Pro, however you want to say it. This is the one used by the Olympic team. This is the one that I own. I got a ridiculous deal on a used machine. New, they're about $2,500. Used, if you can find one, they will sell for around $1,200, give or take. Excellent machines, very difficult to kill. I've tried. Very big machines. This thing is kind of massive. I believe it's 8 or 9 feet long. So if you have a small home, this might not be the way to go. Same issues here. Obviously, you can sit there and crank out 8.5, 9 miles an hour on this thing, but that doesn't mean you're doing that on the water. Also, I know of one guy who damaged his shoulder on one of these, actually tore the labrum, training for the 340. So not something that you want to do long term. Again, keep it to 60 minutes or less. Brilliant for intervals. Just don't sit on there for 3 hours. That's where you start running into issues. Now, let's say you don't have the ability to do an ergometer. Okay, fine. Go down to your thrift shop, and these machines will turn up every so often. You will kill them, but that's okay. They cost about $10 at most thrift shops. And it's just a very basic rower. It's a hydraulic rower, and it will at least start working on your back, which is good because you're going to put a lot of stress on your back. You're going to want to deal with some good mechanics on a rower, but this is an option. Again, I'm trying to deal with different budget levels, different things that people want to deal with. Then we have the water rower. Now, I happen to own one of these. I got a stupid deal on it. I think they sell for about $1,200 used. They're usually about $800, and I got one for, well, much, much less. But it was a farmer who didn't know what he had. So, water rower is fantastic. I personally use the rower right after the race when I do not want to be on an ergometer, but I don't want to lose all of my conditioning. It's also good if you have shoulder issues because it's a different motion in the shoulder. It's an excellent overall full body workout. And I happen to like the water rower more than the Concept 2 just because I like the sound of it. The water rushing around. It's kind of nice at 5 in the morning. There's also the Concept 2, very expensive, but there are conversions for the Concept 2 to convert it into a canoe or kayak ergometer. So another possibility. With any of these, a rower or an ergometer, you're going to want to start low. Start by getting on it for 10 minutes and just getting used to it. And then build 5 minutes every couple of sessions. And I usually make sure that I do at least 5 to 10 minutes of warm-up. So 5 to 10 minutes, a little bit slower, getting things warmed up before cranking into whatever the workout is. With all of these, you want to get to the point where you can do 45 minutes at a pretty good clip without too much of an issue, 30 to 45 minutes. At that point, you're ready to start doing intervals. But you have to get there first. If you start doing intervals before you do any other form of workup, you're going to shred your shoulders or your back or something else. I don't want to see that. So build the foundation, just like we did with running, into one of these. If you're more experienced, then it might take less to prepare you for intervals. So at the end of the day, I want to see you at the end of the race. And hopefully we are headed in that direction. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, quarrels, qualms, quandaries, curse words, please leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, this is 340 Paddler, hoping that you keep your paddle in the water.